So I would consider you actually one of the funniest people of all time.
That is true.
Dane, be funny.
I'm gonna drop something really wild on you. And I have a bigger dick than you, man. And you know it, and I know it.
That's not very funny.
After this interview, I'm gonna punch you in the throat. I'm serious, man. No, don't laugh. Edit that piece out. Fuck that.
Has anyone ever shit on a coat and then sent it to you?
Yeah.
Man, Dane, your life sucked, man.
I just do not like myself at all.
Do you always like interact with your fans, or?
To me, that's like cringy.
Dane, say something funny to me.
I don't even know if I can go here and say this.
You have to now.
Someone shit on the coats.
Don't fuck it up. Okay. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Don't Be Sour. This one, episode number 20 with my favorite comedian of all time.
Is that true?
I swear to God. Wow. I swear on everything that's holy.
Goodness. I did not know this. Okay.
It's kind of weird because I'm a fangirl.
Okay.
So this is, now you're like, fuck, man.
And I'm a new fan of yours. Okay.
Oh, yeah?
As of recently, I'm on with the podcast and getting, into what you're doing. So that's what brought us together. The synergy. But keep going.
You're
Tell
like,
me nice
I saw
things.
the vlogs, hated those podcasts. But
I was like, what else does this guy got?
Not only
Ozzy, you want to be part of the? Oh, okay, no.
Get him in here.
We're not going there.
Not only are you my favorite comedian that I tell everyone, I would consider you actually one of the funniest people of all time.
Wow.
So thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Man, you really are flattering me, and you know what? I deserve it.
And it's great. People, this is our first true mobile setup, and you let me into your home.
We're in the house. We're actually at my place today, where we'll get to it. I know I filmed the special here as well. So the fact that you were like, can I come up to your digs and let's do this like a little more freestyle? Even though I do see that you brought your homework.
I do have my entire homework. I'm gonna pull up shit from your past.
Wait a second. Can I see this just for a quick second?
Okay.
Just for a second. I won't get ahead of it. This looks like a ransom note.
There you go.
That's usable.
And do you normally let like random people come in your home?
Wow, what an interesting question. I used to be I was like,
usually people would say just no or yeah.
Let me investigate my inner philosophy. I used to be a homebody that did not like a lot of people around, very low key. And then about 5 years ago, even though I bought this house 12 years ago, I was like, I want to open up the doors and I want to start hosting and having more people up, and like a Sunday where we could do cornhole and swim and barbecue, and then like we'll do a game night where we do Mafia or code names. And once I broadened my horizons and brought more people into my home, I started making even more deeper and more meaningful friendships.
Well, I'll help you out, man. I'm gonna put Dane's address right on the screen here so everyone can just.
It's already on Google Maps, man. People find that. Every once in a while, a drone just goes over, and I'm like, okay, somebody.
Did you have to do like a background check on me or anything?
On you?
Yeah.
No, I let you come in willy nilly.
Yeah, no, I'm actually gonna steal.
I did think about it for a second, though. I was like, wait a second, I did not suss this dude out really.
You're like, yeah, looks nice. Got cool hair. I think it's a golden doodle or something.
And I told my PR, I was like, oh, you guys don't need to come. They're really great. And they always want to, be there to like kind of whatever, hold your hand and make sure that it doesn't go AWOL. But I was like, you guys stay. I think Maxx is cool. I heard he's got a buddy, Ozzy, who knows martial arts.
Yeah, and two of us, we can definitely beat you up. I'm actually,
wait a second.
When we break down all the stuff, I'm actually going to steal all of your shit.
You could have a couple of pieces, man. I believe that you got to kind of pay it forward and let people. You can grab one of these off the wall and just.
Or to be honest, I think instead of stealing your shit, I'm just going to swap out all of your good batteries with shitty old batteries.
That is a callback.
You like that?
To wait a second. What year?
You should know the exact
6 or 7. I don't know, man. I've said a lot of stuff, but it pings me once in a while. Somebody will say something, and I'll be like, "That sounds familiar. That's me."
I don't want to. I could go this whole episode with talking about quotes that I save on a recent basis.
Okay,
but just one more. I was actually at the festival in Las Vegas. Life is Beautiful. I don't know if you know of it. Arctic Monkeys played. It was great.
I'm a busy guy, man. I don't know about every festival.
You're super cool. I know. Okay. There was a couple arguing.
Yeah.
And immediately to my girlfriend and my best friend, I immediately go, "There's this Dane Cook thing." No, she was like, "You're fucking these other girls." But I immediately wanted to go in and say I know what you mean about the jelly. I wanted to say that to them.
Did you hang and just watch it and kind of Encyclopedia Brown the whole thing and just absorb it? Because I love watching people I'm kind of into the whole TikTok, like people just going off in public places.
Yeah.
And just getting into some weird argument. That's where the whole nothing fight came from.
I love hearing other people's fights.
And because it seems so superfluous because the things they're arguing about are usually like, man, I wish I had those simple problems.
In college, my buddy who was at the festival with me, he would always get into arguments with his Russian girlfriend who would just scream at him all the time.
Okay, and, in Russian?
No, maybe, da. And he would come home all the time pissed, and I'd be like, tell me about it.
Yeah,
I want to hear all. Because I wasn't in a relationship, so I didn't deal with any arguments at the time. I was like, tell me everything.
Can I tell you, Max? The early first half of my career, I realized, why am I in terrible relationships? And then I understood I was doing them on purpose for content. I was with people that I was like, I have no business in this relationship, because I was like, maybe if I just observe and report, even though it was harrowing, it would all end up somehow in the routine.
It's like Taylor Swift.
How far down the list are we at this point?
No, we're at the bottom. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's like Taylor Swift. She just dates people so she can break up with them to make an album about them.
You know what? I don't know if it's, I've heard that over the years, but is it that, or do you think that she's just lovelorn and she wants to vicariously share her evolution in love or around love, the proximity of love? That's actually the album I'm doing after this one, Dane Cook, Proximity of Love. It's jazz fusion with a little bit of a polka rave redo.
I love that. Why don't we?
Let's get to the list, man. This is all. Wait, we're not going, right?
We're gonna tangent. We have about an hour to do this show, and I'm gonna make sure I get through as much of this list as possible.
Okay, let's do this. Let's take a deep breath with the tongue on the roof of the mouth. I know the whole thing. Exhale slowly, 8 seconds. I got it. I know Al-Anon. I know anxiety. I've been through it all. But let's start from quite simply me saying, truly, thank you for coming here. And talking to me about my passion, even though it's a silly word to say, which is my stand-up and this special. That's all I wanted to get out of the way at the very beginning. And now the floor is yours. Where's my notebook, Ozzy? I wrote down 9 pages
I bet you have sick notes.
Of scrawl.
I want to say how this actually happened, because we were talking about this before the show, is Dane was in Houston, ran into me at Chipotle. He's like, you're fucking Maxx Tuning, dude. I love your podcast.
That's right.
And he's like, come to my house.
Yep.
But actually, I slid into your DMs.
That is true.
And here's the crazy thing. You answered.
Yes.
Like, which is normally when you DM like a celebrity, someone really cooler than you are, never answer.
Right.
Or do you always like interact with your fans? Or
I have done that pretty much since I established a in the early 56K modem digital era, when it came to life, and I realized, wait a second, I'm an introvert. I am still at that point dealt with a lot of social anxiety, but I want to be a performer on a mass scale. Suddenly this window to everybody and being able to meet, greet, and shoot the shit with people in real time, I knew right from the very get-go, if I want to continue to grow a fan base and grow with a generation of fans, I have to know them. I have to be right there and connected with them. So it was entrepreneurial from the beginning, even though it's kind of par for the course. This is what we all do now. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes the problem with that is,
by the way, clip it. Okay. Put it on fucking every social. That's the one. I want to be 16 by 9. Is it 16 by 9 or is it 9/16?
9 by 16.
Ozzy, I know you know all this shit. Is it 9/16 or 16/9? First one. Okay. You're going to have to cut that. Ozzy talked over us. And that felt like it was really like.
Have you ever DM'd anyone and they just did not answer? And then you're like, blocked.
Yeah, The Rock recently. I actually DM'd The Rock and I was like, hey man, if you want to share my content, because he's buddies with a lot of my friends who are comedians.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'll just hit The Rock up, because maybe The Rock would be like, oh man, I was just watching your stand-up special from blah, blah, blah. But so far, nothing from The Rock. What, are you busy? What are you too busy, Rock?
He's literally jumping from buildings in Dubai from a car, building to building.
It's incredible. What he's done, that's another person that I look at and go, okay, he took his lane, right? Everybody's got a lane in the arts. And he figured out a way to hybrid that lane and then conjoin it with all things tech, you know what I mean? All things social media, and then beyond. I'm sure he has like a huge team and a corporation of people, but you can't have any of that stuff if you don't know the inner philosophy of, I want to be with people on this journey as opposed to just fans watching me on a journey.
Yeah.
Well,
I think it's first of all, amazing.
Do I sound okay, by the way? I wish I had cans.
By the way, he did not want headphones. He took them off and he threw them on the ground. He said,
I did not throw them. This is now you're telling stories over here, Max.
This is like I'm not gonna make too many references to your stand-up. I'm gonna make too many stand-up. But DM, here we are sitting in your home, and I joked about you letting me into your home, but like your new special that's coming up, you filmed it here.
Yes. The title is Above It All, because we're here in the Hollywood Hills. We are essentially above it all. But also, there's another meaning. It's not with me. There's never just one rhyme or reason. It has to be layered. There's tears. There's things that are homages or it's supposed to kind of skew your thinking this way. really above it all was also my personal philosophy of you can't let the noise consume you, in life. It really, sometimes you just get caught up in what everybody else is saying or doing or thinking about you, or, people telling you what you haven't done yet, and you're not even enjoying the things that you have accomplished. So it was that double meaning of, yes, I'm going to invite people into my home up here, but also the act is really like, these are my coping mechanisms. This is how I take the piss out of myself. This is how I observe and report on the world around me, by not letting the garbage time and the noise consume me and distract me from the thing that I love doing, which is
telling funny jokes.
Being roll fucking credits,
being the
dude.
funny guy. So why did you want to do it at your house? Which, by the way, this comes out in 2 days from this episode airing, October 5th.
October 5th, even though it's live. You can go through DaneCook.com. That's all I'll say. DaneCook.com, but then October 5th is when it goes like
to the public.
Lights are on to the public. Oh. Why did I want to do it here? I moved into this house 12 years ago. I sat on the front porch the first couple of nights that I was here. It was just nothing. It was dirt and an empty edifice and just me sitting there. And I remember thinking, I want to do a show here someday, because in Boston, I don't know if this is everywhere. I don't know if this is where you grew up, but like the norm over the summer was neighbors would all kind of gather to have some booze, smoke some cigarettes on one porch.
Yeah.
And then you'd kind of, cut it up, right? Everybody, take the piss out of each other or tell stories about the neighborhood. There's just always laughter on one person's porch every couple of weeks.
They would piss on each other?
Take the piss out of each other? You never heard that?
Okay, no, I misheard you.
Take the piss out of each other, meaning just like, maybe you haven't mowed your lawn in a few weeks.
I'm just fucking with you.
Okay, I got it. So we would do that, and I loved the element of improvisational and real, even though sometimes there were things that I was already like, oh, I could do an impersonation of Mr. Buck, and I'm going to do Mr. Buck was one of our neighbors. I was like, I bet I could do. And so when everybody's here next, it was like, I could do a little comedy. There was a real audience around me, but it just felt like a special happening that you knew when all those neighbors went home, everybody felt a little better. Everybody laughed a little more. Everybody felt like they were looking out for each other. And I remember oftentimes going to bed after those nights and feeling like, that feels like real community. That felt like, and it felt like a show because I got to be funny. So that's where all that came from.
And you're like, after I'm done, I can just go inside into my own fridge and then go to bed.
That's right. Or maybe play a little Atari, which is what I was rocking at that time, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you decide who's invited?
Let's see. How can I make a boring story interesting? There's a company you can hire. How many
people are there?
And they, over the 2 nights, it was a couple of thousand people. But there's
Oh, you fit 1,000 people in your backyard?
Well, it's the front yard, first of all. The backyard is bigger.
Okay.
I was hoping Ozzy would give me the look on that, like, well, let's see that backyard. Because we had coverings and there was places and we had beanbag chairs where everybody was sitting.
Okay.
So we wedged everybody in there, man. It was pretty amazing.
So how did you get the people there?
Yeah, so this company, you hire a company. Get invited. You can hire a company, and because I hadn't hit Chipotle that week, I can never say that right. There's a company, and they find audiences for you. So they found an audience that thought they were just coming to a Dane Cook show somewhere. They didn't know they were being shuttled from a parking lot nearby to my home, and they didn't know that they were coming to see my next special.
Were they blindfolded, or now everyone knows where you live?
They were not blindfolded, but they were in the shuttle, and apparently they told me they were like, why are we being driven up into the hills? I think they thought they were going to be human trafficked at that point.
Okay.
Like somebody just put up an ad for a Dane Cook show, and next thing you know, they're going to be like, somewhere in some, third world country that, I can't say the name of now because I'm sure there's good people that live there. And if they were to hear this podcast, they'd be like, why are you taking fucking shots at us?
The podcast is growing. They might hear it.
We're just like the hub of human trafficking. We have businesses here. We have Chipotle.
I don't think they have Chipotle. Okay,
they might.
So you got the 1,000 people group here.
Yeah.
And with the Above It All, what was the title you almost called it? Or was that just like, I'm going to do this title, Above It All?
Damn, man. You're good because I always have a couple of titles.
I get the notes.
I don't want to look at that because if I see a little bit, I'll soothsay and then I'll get ahead of you and I'll be answering questions that you're like, oh shit, Dane already knows where I'm going with this. Man, what did I call it before? I always have backup names or second or third tier names. Honestly, it'll come to me in a second. I think I had something like, whatever. Watch this.
On top of stuff.
No, it was not other things that had like verticality to it. It was just, you know what it was too? I'd had names that were very, when I was younger, they were kind of very like guy-centric, and as a beta who wanted to be alpha, but now I'm very much more alpha. It was like retaliation and harmful if swallowed and vicious circle. They all kind of like played into a certain mentality I had as a young guy with all that, ego and cocksureness. As I got a little bit older, I was also like, man, I have like 60% of my fan base is women. And they're also, when I do my meet and greet, I'm meeting like, moms that were coming to my college shows that are now bringing their kids to come see me. So I was like, what's something that still has a coolness and a little bit of an intensity, but also broadens I'm a different guy, it's got to be reflected in the stand-up and in the title. I think the other title I had was Fuck Yeah. No.
Turns out you can't put that in a lot of headlines. It'll get bleeped out. And so with this one, you talked on a recent podcast about you're excited that the director of this is the one who did Vicious Circle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, Marty Callner.
And so as someone, like, in my mind, if you're going to film a stand-up, it's just like, all right, like I need someone to film it, and I press go, or we go. What is the whole process like? What does the director do? Like, what goes into creating a special?
Yeah, it's so much more than just point and shoot. Because with Marty Callner, first of all, Marty is Hard Knocks on
it's
HBO.
A Hard Knock Life. No, no,
not Annie.
No. No, I don't know.
You don't know
Hard Knock.
You're into
Jay-Z,
sports. You're into
I'm not
fitness
into sports.
Really?
No. I know I look like a bodybuilder and
fitness
athlete.
and all that stuff isn't somehow in tandem
if you
to
threw
what?
Football
Edit this
at me,
out. I don't want to be this wrong. I hate being wrong, and when I'm very wrong, it can't make the cut. Marty Callner has a show that's been on 20 years called Hard Knocks. It's on HBO. It's about football. And before that, his claim to fame was like anything live, especially through HBO, they called Marty Callner. Garth Brooks, A Million People at Central Park, Diana Ross in her, comeback 1978. Marty Callner is a guy that just like some great photographers can take a picture, but like an exceptional photographer just knows aperture, and they know an angle and a skew that tells a different story.
Right.
So Marty had directed George Carlin amongst everybody else. But in 1978, I happened to see a special when I was like 10 or 11.
Yeah, I was dead. So tell me
1978? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm like a time traveler because I was there. Marty directed Carlin in a special called On Location. On Location was filmed in Arizona in the Round at the Celebrity Theater. And I saw this special when I was a kid. And not only did I know I wanted to do stand-up, and I was just insanely infatuated with stand-up, but George Carlin. When I saw that, and I saw this guy in the Round, and then years later, I was doing shows in the Round, my first thought was, if I ever make it to that level, that upper echelon of a career, HBO at that time, I want to do it with Marty Callner.
So how does someone direct? Because I thought it'd be like, hey, I have some really funny jokes. You film it. I'm going to tell all the jokes. Like, what goes into it?
You know what it is? Like Marty, for example, Marty will come, if you have 50 shows 6 months before the taping, the filming he'll come to 40. He wants to see every bit. He wants to see where it might go. He wants to see some of the improv that you have around it, because he's already working out the edits and the camera work in his mind. It's fascinating to see him in the edit bay after, because you're not even seeing this one. You're just watching a show laughing.
Yeah.
The nuances and the minutia and editing on the cut and knowing when your hand goes here, that's ushering in, camera drone 3, which is at the end of that fingertip. And he's putting these pieces together that's enhancing the performance. It badly cut comedy in a comedy. I won't name names. I had a couple of my friends recently that are very funny people. They had terrible editors. Their editor is going to, fulfill the marching orders of the director. The editor's really always looking at the director saying, how did you see this piece of material going? And if you see a clunker of a comedy special or a show that you're like, I saw this girl or this guy live, and why isn't this working? That's your director and editor are just, not, they're not in sync. So Marty comes in, Boston Garden, he put 18 cameras at the Boston Garden. He wanted every single element of what I did that night covered. When we did Isolated Incident, second, we did that. It was one camera. We came up with one shot, 60 minutes real time, no edits. We wanted to show people at home, this is what comedy is.
Yeah.
when you don't finesse it and fix it, later on. So with this one, he came in and he just said, this is how I see lighting your house. This is the material that I think is going to benefit you. Sometimes you hear things you don't want to hear from your director. I think that piece got to wait. I don't know if you're quite ready to, put that one out there yet. That one that you don't fully believe in. Here's why you should do that. It's special because it speaks to so-and-so. So your director is so much more than a guy that's, filming the show. They're also a bit of like your therapist because they're making you believe that you're ready to not just film a comedy show, but that you're about to exceed expectations you've set for themselves and your audience has for you. That's what Marty Callner does.
Okay. Well, that's cool. I didn't know all that kind of went into it.
Yeah. And it should. Some directors would probably just show up and say like, yeah, put 2 cameras right here and film it. But
they love doing this thing.
Yeah. But think of it like this, Max. When you see a comedy show live, it's happening in real time, and your experience is what the person in front of you is saying, and hopefully it's hilarious, and how you're reacting because the people around you were all hearing and on this journey at the same time.
Yeah.
The minute that leaves that room, that's not the comedy show anymore. It's on footage. It's in excerpts. It's how it was lit. It's the hair was in your face. The show that you end up on TV is not the comedy show that anybody, in fact, people even in the crowd, that's not the show that they experienced.
Yeah.
So that needs to be created and curated and cultivated by an incredible director, and there's nobody better than Marty Callner.
When you kind of are like, hey, I want to do this special. Here's kind of the content. You're saying he kind of sifts through it. Is he just in silence reading your jokes and you're sitting there like, and he hasn't laughed yet. He hasn't laughed, or do you deliver them to him?
Yeah, I know. It's like I could talk to Marty after a show and he'll be like, that thing killed, that thing, blah blah blah, and then he'll leave one thing out. And in my mind, I know like he's going, that's not part of this. He's already seeing a broader scope. Because he's done it so successfully with not just comedy, with musicians and then into sports. I mean, this guy knows the heart and soul of how to tell a story beyond just what you're performing.
Right.
Yeah.
So with this special, all brand new content no one's ever seen before, right?
Brand new content. I mean, a couple of things that people have probably seen over the 4 years, I guess, with the COVID break, like the 2 years leading up. Some of the material ended up in here. But I would say that with the break and then coming after the COVID break, it was kind of good because it broke up some of that material and then I recalibrated it.
Yeah.
So even if you're seeing a piece that you're like, I saw you do that at Radio City Music Hall, then you're going to go, oh, but wait, that last part you partitioned into.
You made it better.
I made it better. Or,
better.
Hopefully you say that. Every once in a while somebody will be like, yeah, I saw it live. And I thought that you kind of fucked that up.
So something that I didn't know, I've seen you live it was in 2010, I believe. You played in Richmond, Virginia at the Coliseum.
Right. I believe you.
Yeah, and let me tell you, loved it, by the way. And
2010, it was a good tour.
That was a great
Isolated
tour.
Incident tour, global thermal nuclear.
I was a wee lad, so I don't really remember at the time. But
there was like 3 back-to-back tours, but I remember like 9 and 10 were pretty hardcore. They were great.
Something that I didn't know, I think, which of your special had come out before that, right around or before 2010?
It was Vicious Circle. Okay. Then it was Rough Around the Edges, which was Madison Square Garden, and then it was Isolated Incident.
Okay,
so all 3 of those in a row.
So I've seen all of them, and when I went to special, I didn't know this about comedians that I thought that every stand-up someone does is new jokes all the time. And when you started the show. Yeah, what's it called, right? So there was a lot of comedy, but then there would be a part when I was like, wait a second, I've heard that joke. I didn't know. And now that I'm older, I'm like, what, do you expect someone to have like thousands of jokes every week for different shows? Like, how do you decide what you're going to repeat, or like, I'm going to do this new bit? I
would watch stand-ups as I was coming up the ranks, and I was so put off by formulaic.
Yeah.
And sometimes I would see people that came back to see a comic they loved, and I could tell they were disappointed because it was so locked in that it didn't feel fresh, even though the joke was still funny, and a joke is going to be funny for years beyond just that group of people seeing it. So I was doing stand-up, but I was also doing a lot of sketch comedy in improv groups, and they loved real moments. Even if they weren't necessarily as funny as the material or the skit, people loved when something happened in the room, right? And so I was like, okay, at the cost of it being as seamless and perfect, I'm going to always interject reality or some free form thinking. How am I feeling in the moment speaking the piece of formulaic material I've worked on? And that provides me an opportunity to always have a little bit of wiggle room so that if you do see the bit, you go, oh yeah, I've seen him work on this, but man, you went off on a little tangent or you sidebar. I'll even say sometime like, you know what, let's stop the bit for a second. I just thought of something else. I'm wrong. I've actually corrected myself on an opinion that I thought was right and finally realized I'm wrong about something mid-bit.
Yeah.
And then I'm doing point counterpoint with myself. It's funny because I'm actually saying, you know what, something occurred to me. And then I'm going back in real time and I'm reevaluating a piece of material. All that stuff, if done right with a foundation of a solid set, a solid piece of material, is hopefully going to give that audience something completely unique every time they come and see you, even if some of the pieces they've seen.
And so much of your comedy is like improv, kind of on the fly, or like you adjust.
Not as much as you think.
Really?
Yeah, it's improv on the fly. Probably when you see me a bunch of times at the local club, kicking the can.
It's like when something happens in the crowd, that's like I'm going to interject my thing.
Right, but it's interjected within like, all right, here's the piece. I have a piece of my set which is about the worst time I ever bombed, and how humiliating and devastating I thought it was going to be to my career, to my livelihood. And so I'll take that piece and I'll tell the story 10 times over the course of a couple of months. And every time I'll share another aspect. I called my mom after the show. I went to a Fuddruckers and I ate a burger and I met a girl that night after the worst night of my life. My shitbox car broke down. I ended up having to walk on the Mass Turnpike to get home. And I'm adding other little pieces and I'm figuring out, oh, okay, these are all the places I can improv later.
Right.
Because I know which elements work. So now you finally come see me at the taping. And hopefully, if I'm feeling good and I've had, a good protein dinner and my brain is working right and I'm spirited and upbeat, then hopefully I'm going to hit the piece of material. I'm going to get into where I know the laughs are. And then some of those improv moments, you're going to piecemeal and stick it in that night because that piece feels right tonight. Some things you're going, I know that could be funny, but not tonight. And then by the time you get into the edit bay with the great Marty Kullner, he's seen all 50, right? He's come and seen me 40, 50 times. He's like, you fucking snuck that thing in there because you knew that was a great way to call back to the other piece that we did tonight. And if you really work your craft the right way, then the moments where you're ready for anything, seemingly to the audience member, looks like it's just part of the act.
Yeah.
But you have tried and failed enough times to know tonight I can grab that and put it in there. Or you know what? Edit that piece out. Fuck that. I said that a few times. I know that's funny, but not tonight. I don't need it. And I've actually just like exorcised things right out of the routine, even though I know like, man, I worked on that for 2 years. But this is the taping. That piece doesn't work tonight. And I'm not going to be precious about it. That's out. That improv's in.
Well, you're definitely a master of your craft. And I think something that you've done.
Is that the title of this episode?
No, I believe it's just going to be called
Ozzy?
Interviewing Dane Cook. Really revolutionary stuff, I think you're such an iconic person in the industry. I think you changed a lot of the comedy, especially, I'm not going to, I know you've told a story a million times about, you being kind of the first viral person, MySpace, you and Tila Tequila,
right.
We were like, you pioneered this whole, I'm going to put my shit out for free.
Me and Tila Tequila, wait a second, you said it like we were in business together.
Well, I'm saying when I think of the first
Never met
people
Tila
on
Tequila, but I saw her on MySpace.
Would you understand what I'm saying though, right? Like she was like one of the first people who like mastered MySpace.
She understood that there was an audience that was so far beyond like what the average person
she was just as smart as you
was realizing. I've never met her. I wish I could say, hey, good job. She really kicked ass.
Well, I think that's something that I noticed in that show in 2010 and something that I've noticed that is so different from other comedians is you are so animated in what you do. And I've been to a lot of comedy shows and some people who are extremely popular in the space, but they sit on a stool, they talk their joke, they might walk around.
Right.
But
they're like folk singers with some jokes.
Yeah, exactly.
In there, right?
Exactly.
They got a banjo, they wear a straw hat.
But you, Dane,
there's a spittoon, but nobody's spitting into it.
Yeah, but like I would imagine, have you always been so when you decided to do comedy, you were like, I'm going to be running around the fucking stage. I'm going to be doing everything.
No, that was just like, so my mom was like very physical in her humor. So it was like, there was there's a lot of silliness and just funny physicality. And my dad's humor was like very kind of almost like a little stoic, and he had some swagger, and he was kind of cool, but like, I don't know, maybe a little bit of a ham, but very low key.
Dad cool.
So it was the blend, right? It was like, okay, physicality came natural to me. It was never phony. It was never put on.
Yeah.
I don't like watching somebody physical who isn't really physical. To me, that's like cringy. I can't watch somebody. All that stuff just kind of like was in the routine because that's how excited I was or am to be performing.
Well, I think something that you do so well is you get the audience like people can visualize what you're doing. You know, one of your many iconic skits is when you do the B&E, right? Which I referenced on the battery thing.
Right.
And you talk about you're kicking in the door and you always do these mannerisms. But the part that always stands out to me on that skit is because you can visualize it is when you're like, when the guy's tired of, the door being kicked in, he puts up the beads. And 5 times, Dane, you
that's right.
It's not just once. And you're doing the motion, you're making the sound effects, and it's like
seeing the beads getting ripped off.
And like as something is,
and I would imagine if you were grabbing beads, that you'd probably be like hitting them and they'd be swinging, and you just couldn't probably get all at once, like one braid of beads.
Everything, like you've always just like described what's happening in a way that I've never seen another comedian do.
Yeah, I like to paint verbal pictures.
Yeah.
That coupling of great language with, showing people, the best that you can with pantomime. This is how I see this thing playing out. I love it.
Have you always been, when did you know in life that you're like, I'm funny?
Oh, wow. I'm funny. I mean, I thought I was funny at home. I didn't think I was funny, at school or at camp or whatever. I was too much like a wallflower.
Yeah.
But I was watching everything that was going on. And then when I would go home, I'd say, the janitor farted in the hallway today.
That's not very funny.
He had the barrel, but it was funny when I acted it out. And I'd grab the trash can in the kitchen and I pretend it was on wheels and I'd really push it around. He had a weird little limp. So now I'm acting it out.
Yeah.
And of course it's a silly, stupid story, but my mom is already looking at me like, you envelop the entire character. I had the guy's voice a little bit and I had the thing pushing, and then when he, made the fart noise, and then how he reacted to it. And then the kids, everybody was giggling on the kids. And when kids laugh, they like to laugh through their giggle. So I had all these elements, and my mom just sitting there at the kitchen table, like she's, I saw the whole thing. Yeah. I could see that whole thing. So it was the beginning of like realizing I know how to telecast a story.
So was humor something that you said you used to be like a wallflower, and you mentioned before that you weren't a class clown? I was 8th grade class clown, so I take that with pride. I tell that to a lot of people.
Yeah, I was very jealous of people like yourself.
But how did you, like at what point were you like, I'm going to stop being this kind of, shy guy, and I'm going to be the funny guy?
It wasn't the funny guy. It was, let me go from being shy and having social anxiety into getting into theater and starting drama class. Mm-hmm. I had a creative writing teacher, Lucille Burt, who did creative writing and journalism. So I had her, 2 classes of the day. And then I spent a lot of time with Frank Roberts, my mentor, in drama. And it was like, that's where I was like, oh, you know what? This is my comfort zone. And so even though I didn't feel like I was necessarily funny, like in the hallways, I could go into those classes, and creative writing gave me a chance to write things that were fantastical and wild. And of course, drama, every other day was like, here's the assignment, get up on stage and show me what it's like living on the moon. Right. And then I'm just up in front of Frank, and I'm doing like a zero gravity. And, it fed that part of me that felt so insignificant. I truly felt, without making this too like, I felt like such a nobody when I was a kid. And it felt like everybody in the hall had something great going on, and they were coming and going to that's how I saw them.
What age and grade did you feel this way?
Definitely junior high school.
Okay.
And I'm like this kid, and I'm going through terrible cystic acne, and I just do not like myself at all. I am just like I'm at the bottom of the barrel of self-worth. But I would watch people around me, and I was like fascinated with human behavior. And I knew that I wanted to be a comedian, even though I was not necessarily funny to the world. Yeah. It took me about 6 or 7 years, graduate high school, then I start realizing, oh, wow, I could take all that performance ability. And when I bring it into stand up with my silly ideas, it was working.
So you weren't like the guy. So in high school for me, I was the class clown, and whether or not I was funny, I don't know. I did peak in high school. I've never gotten accolades since then. Now I'm just the guy that's trying to be funny. We're going to
give you your flowers, man.
I know.
This podcast right here is
so you weren't like I was always getting kicked out of class because I was just like always trying to make people laugh, always being the loud.
Man, I always wanted to be that guy. I always thought that
I was that guy.
Well, I kind of pride myself these days, and for most of my career, I like being a disruptor.
Yeah.
I like disrupting the industry. I like disrupting the tropes and the familiarity of what stand-up was and could be. I loved watching somebody get tossed out of class and wondering like, okay, now they get to go to the principal's office. Like, what, their parents going to come? And like, what's it? To me, it was so dramatic and interesting. And I felt like, man, I'm just like, par for the course, sitting here with everybody else, boring. I just felt boring. You're
not a boring guy.
No, but at the time I was like, but
I want to be kicked out of class.
Right? I wanted to be kicked out of I thought it would be cool to be disruptive because I thought at that time, oh, that's what makes you an interesting persona in this world, is somebody who goes against the grain, even if that means getting 86 out of math class.
I never put 2 and 2 together till you just said it.
You put 2 and 2 together, and I just said math class. See how that works?
Shit's crazy over here.
All right. Talking about if I said science, you would have been like, the chemistry of that is.
I've never taken chemistry my entire life.
Really?
Nope. Biology. Just kept doing biology.
Is that on the cheat sheet right here?
I was not. I wasn't good enough at math to get into the chemistry. But people always want to be a disruptor. Yep. I wanted to disrupt, and I never processed that in high school I was disrupting the class all the time.
Right.
I'm a disruptor since I was a child.
Yeah, I mean, and probably because without getting so much into the deep, hardcore, philosophy of why that when you're a young person, and I would probably beg to guess that it's like, that somewhere inside of you, you feel very different.
Yeah.
From the room that you're being put in with people that to you seem common, and there's something about yourself that's uncommon. It's either that or chemically you've got some ADHD.
Yeah, I think I was just really fucking annoying, honestly. And so as you kind of like I don't know what they say, evolved into your wings or some shit I'm gonna make up. But like you,
oh my God, that sounds like a Richard Marx
you like
lyric.
That? So you started like, you're like, I'm gonna start. Now I'm the funny guy outside, and you started going that and changing your career.
Yeah.
Something that I've been told throughout my life, especially I'm 33, just turned 33, and the older that I get, I still am the same comedic level I think that I was when I was 20, when I was 15. Okay, in terms of like my just always everything needs a reply, everything needs a comeback, everything needs some witty thing. I can't take anything seriously. And throughout, as I've gotten older, I've gotten the comment of like, you need to grow up. Like not everything needs to like. And I'm like, so when you get a certain age, is being funny immature?
Oh,
but
no.
Like, what's your thoughts on that?
No. I definitely feel like, comedians especially are cut from a different cloth. And like, I think the whole life of a comedian is sort of a funhouse mirror entity. It's like, no, we are seen differently. We establish things differently around us. When a comic comes into a situation, it's not going to be a ABC, type of conversation. You always know that it's going to go in some kind of strange and unusual direction. So no, I don't think that there's like, growing up. Yeah, of course you got to like away from the stage, you got to be mature. You got to take care of your business. You have to be business minded. You have to learn legalese. You have to dedicate yourself to your community, to people that you love, helping them champion their dreams and stuff. But you on the solo ride of what my life is no, I'm supposed to be a wisecracking.
On your like day-to-day life, do you still have plenty of situations or people you interact with? Like someone says something that's not in a comedic tone, you say some sort of reply because you think it immediately have your Rolodex of jokes, and you're like, I know the perfect reply to this. And they're like, not everything needs to be a joke, Dane.
But a lot of things, well, I don't know, because, I don't know if I get not everything needs to be a joke, Dane, because I have been kind of like, when I go into a situation, people know me for, comedy. So I kind of think when I do that, what I see is a little overcompensating. I'll say something that's like, I guess, mildly amusing. And then people are like, Dane Cook just came in here and said jokes.
Yeah, just be honest.
So I don't get the chastised like too soon. If anything, people are almost like expecting me. I said this is in my act, but this is true. I went to my dentist.
You're getting an exclusive, ladies and gentlemen.
I went to my dentist. And the joke that I said recently, based on truth, is when you're a comedian, everybody thinks that you're on all the time, and they think they should be on all the time and try to match you in some comedic styling. So I went to my dentist because I had a sore tooth. And so I go in. That's
generally why people go.
And I'm sitting there. Well, other people go for a cleaning, okay? Other people go for a whitening.
You're supposed to get cleaned?
Ozzy, what is this guy doing? So I went in because I just had like this sore tooth right in the back. And I tell the story. I go, so I go in and I'm sitting in front of Dr. Madahi. He's my dentist for many years. And he looks in my mouth and he goes, man, you grind your teeth like a bitch. This is my professional dentist. And it's like, he felt like he should go there because I'm this edgy comedian. And he thought he should, that's how I needed to be, spoken to. So it's a hilarious moment, but that's how the world kind of operates around me. People always think I'm going to be intercepting their conversation and injecting humor.
So slight background, I told you I've been YouTube for like 10 years. I used to go to these expos all the time right before COVID happened. Ever since 2014 to like 2019. Go to these big fitness expos, and I would have lines, not to make me sound super cool, but of just hundreds and hundreds of people for meet and greets, right? Of just like 8 hours in a row meeting people. And something that I would always get, and I want to know your thoughts on this, is now I'm not on your level funny. I consider myself a funny guy. I was 8th grade class clown.
All right.
So
I read about that.
Yeah. I read
off your notes when you held it up. I'm a speed reader.
Something that people would always do to me is, they come up to me, be like, hey, I love your content. Maybe they love your stand-up.
This is at the meet and greet when you would
do. And this would happen all the time.
Okay.
People would say, they'd be like, hey, my friend couldn't be here. Can we send a video to them? I'd be like, sure. And what they would always say is, can you say something funny?
Right.
Like, can you be funny? And it's almost like this dance monkey, like Dane, be funny.
Right. I never looked at it as dance monkey.
Yeah.
I think that I always looked at this occupation, and still do 31 years in, as it's glamorous to me. I really mean that. Why? Is not only because I have the opportunity to get up on a stage and change the energy of a room with whatever is on my mind, but as a kid who used to quote my favorite comedians and be saying their lines, like to my friends or to my family, to have all those years later, people just hoping in some way that you'll share one of those quips with them, even though I don't always have the quip in that moment. And I'm like, I don't know what I'll say off the top. I'll try to come up with something.
If someone says, Dane, say something funny to me, like what would you do?
I would, whatever. I'd say, is this your husband? And he said, yeah. And how long you been together? But what's his name? Mike. Okay. Mike, Sarah's having an affair with me.
Yeah.
I just had sex with Sarah backstage. Okay. Just so you know. And I have a bigger dick than you, man. And you know it, and I know it. And Sarah now knows it.
This is
Happy
good.
birthday, Mike. And so it might be something like that. Just something obtuse and weird.
And you would do the same if it was like the man with the wife.
I would just say wild shit, man. Like, especially during my, heavy meet greet era where, like yourself, it was like hours.
Yeah.
Meeting people longer than the show.
Yeah.
I'm spending more time with the fans after the show, just shooting the gip and hanging out. But I never have ever felt, thank God, a feeling of animosity towards fans that care about spending even a moment of time with me. I still think it always, like, I'm anchored by, I was this damaged kid with so much trauma going on that if people care to share space with me, then, like, why wouldn't my default mechanic go to, I appreciate you. This is great.
100%. Yeah. When I would go to these lines for 8 hours, I would never take a besides going to the bathroom, I would never take a break. I would never do anything because I was like, I'm going to meet every single person when the queue's done. I'm still going to continue on.
Yeah. And so, but if people come up and they say, hey, sorry to interrupt your dinner. Can we, my default isn't like, why are you interrupting my dinner? My default, even if it is a moment where maybe it's not proper time to, shoot the gift, it's like, no, I want to make this person, this person's meeting me randomly. Maybe they supported my career at a time when I needed it. I could take a minute to be like, I say some crazy shit.
Yeah, then you would tell them that you banged their wife.
Or I say something like, and dinner's on you, right? whatever. Just throw some kind of like thing that that when they leave that experience, I would never want people. I know people that are pretty shitty to their fans. I know people for whatever their personal reason, they're just not very friendly or nice. And to think about like, wow, that fan is walking away from that moment, and that moment is over for the person who was crappy to them, but for the rest of their life, they're gonna be like, oh, we met so and so, and man,
I think the first moment that you meet someone, that first interaction could be the last interaction you ever have with that person, and it needs to be special. Right. And not to go on a huge tangent, I went to the fitness expo, and there was someone that my friend wanted me to meet for him, get a picture with him.
We get it. You go to the fitness expos. Ozzy.
I know.
This guy with the fitness expos.
But I met this guy Steve Cook, who was like an iconic figure. Uncle. Well, you definitely don't look like him. He actually had like a big muscle.
Come on, you set me up with the Steve Cook.
But like my interaction with that guy set the tone for every single time I ever would have a conversation about this guy because of how great the interaction was. And so like the way I think it's so important. I see so many people in whether it be influencers like myself, celebrities like you, where people meet them and the person isn't the same. And I understand there's hey, I'm not at 100% all the time, but you should pretty much be very similar.
You can have tact with people. Yeah. You don't need to like take something away from a person's experience. But if we were going to go into like therapy mode, we would say, and I've done a lot of therapy over the years, you'd say that person obviously has something inside of them that they need to probably forgive themselves for because they don't feel like they deserve the love from whoever it may be. And that's usually a person that like lashes out at a loving incoming call. They're going to lash out with some kind of, hullabaloo that pushes people away because something inside of them is pushing themselves away from whatever they obtained.
Yeah. And when I would meet all these people and you do like, when you tell a funny joke when someone says be funny, I would just go to this default of saying dumb stuff at a loud volume because sometimes
loud is funny.
This is on my note. I put loud equals with a slash through it.
I got a fax earlier in the day. Somebody sent that to me.
So a lot of people, I see comedy. I like to think because of being 8th grade class clown that I know when someone's actually funny.
Right.
You, very funny.
I think you're funny because your commentary is about times you've been funny or maybe not funny. And yet that's kind of your shtick, as we would say in comedy, is you're both in real time and you're in commentary mode talking about times where you're either funny at the expo or around the expo.
There's been times that I've been funny.
That's why you are funny, but that's why I like your banter. And that's why it works with me because I think that differentiates you from somebody who's just trying to be funny. Right. You've added into the element of like a third person perspective of your own kind of humor, which is funny.
But see, the problem with my type of humor, you write sketches and tell like, bits and things like that. And it's hilarious.
Right. We call them routines.
Okay. Sorry. Not to downplay. What would you call this? I consider myself a comedic leech where like I need you to say something and then my brain has to process that. You'd probably be a good
groundling. You'd probably be good at like Second City. You'd probably be good at like doing like improv games. I think have you ever done improv games?
I don't.
Like
I think
I
would shit a brick if I ever stood on a stage and tried to be funny.
I think that you'd surprise yourself. Yeah, I think that if you have comedy coursing through your veins, then I'm gonna drop something really wild on you. This is the thing that most people that will never do it don't realize about getting up on stage. It has to hurt. It has to be scary. You have to feel like you can't do it. Because the pressure of all that will take away all the fucking garbage bullshit that will dissipate off you. And at the center of it will be the thing that makes you funny. But you won't know that till you're up there. So you'll think all this shit. But if I put you on a stage and said, dude, we got 5 minutes. We got to figure this out. We're going to podcast live together. Yeah. We're in it. You'd be blown away at what you're capable of with the pressure of performing. Away from the thought of the pressure of performing. It's totally, totally different, man.
I think that's good advice. I mean, I'm never going to take it because I'm not going to be on stage ever, but I appreciate it.
What if you end up doing, what if we did this, like if I said to you, hey, we're doing South by Southwest, you and Ozzy fly, this was great. This was highly rated. Like, let's do it. What if I put you on stage next year and say, it's the Maxx and Dane?
I think you will. So like, this is going to go down in history of like one of my favorite podcasts. And after this, I think you're gonna
already in real time. Yeah. We know this.
No,
damn it.
I think you're gonna. I wish you came in here with an ice cream cone because I would smash it in your face and make sure that you remember it forever.
It's a callback.
I got too much
callbacks.
Dude, do you get annoyed when people reference you?
No, it's like it's unbelievable because you go. People are still holding on to those thoughts that I put in my routine.
So I was talking about to my girlfriend last night about kind of the prep, my notes for this.
Yeah,
and she was saying I was like, I just I'm a super big fan of Dane, but I don't want to come off as like I'm
super big. I thought I was your favorite comedian. Now now it's just super big.
You are, and she goes.
By the end of the interview, is going to be like, I got to say, I'm familiar with some of your content. But not all of it. There was a certain period of time where I just tapped out for 15 years.
These quotes, which is crazy because a lot of stuff that you say, I mean, you've done so many specials, but there's certain aspects that you're like, these are the moments that people will remember forever. Like the joke of the ice cream. But even my girlfriend, I talk about you all the time before I ever set this podcast up. And she's like, I know you're your favorite comedian because she's like, I can't, because what you told me, she's like, I can't hear a car alarm without, I'm a car.
That's right.
Yeah, every time.
That's right.
And it's, do you
that bit, I'm glad you brought that bit up because you know what that bit signifies? That bit signifies
that car alarms still sound the same today.
They do still sound the same, and you can still sing that little ditty.
I need gasoline.
But it's like, there has to be, quite literally in that bit, like a certain musicality. That's what makes a certain comic stand out. That's what makes where you go, that person's funny, but why don't I really retain what they're saying? Is because they might be a little flat in their what do they call that? The affect. But it's like if you have a little bit of musicality, in your modulation, whether it's podcasting.
Do you read the dictionary, man?
I do, man.
Your vernacular is just.
I love it. I'm a huge verbologist, and I love
half
jargon.
The words you said, I don't know what the fuck you just. I don't know what you said.
It's fun because then after the podcast, people can look up words
on Google. No, you do like this. Remember, you're like, I type up here. That's another.
I've never had 3 callbacks in an interview.
I would annoy you with how much shit.
This.
Yeah, okay? I would annoy you.
I just want people to know legitimately that this is why I was excited because I've done a lot of interviews in my life. Sometimes it's a little traditional and not boring, but it's just a little bit like I know what I'm going to get. I said I'm going to sit with Maxx, and I have a feeling that this is going to feel very feisty.
This guy,
I appreciate you.
Yeah,
man.
that's right.
Come on, dude.
Fist bump on there. Let me ask you on these There's probably a lot of things you reference of like, oh, this is what people will reference this joke that I made a lot, like a common thing.
Never know that.
Really?
I'll never.
You don't
know.
like the popular ones.
I never have ever thought, this is a Quotable,
the B&E,
no idea, zero clue. Somebody just watched my special the other day and said to me, I know the quote that everybody's going to be saying. And I was like, I hadn't even thought of it. I said what? And they go, the bit that you did about feeling, being a sociopath, blah, 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 whatever. And I go, yeah. And they go, and then you tagged it with, I feel nothing. And I was like, yeah, I said that. And they go, everyone's going to be going, I feel nothing. And I don't know in real time that that's something that people might latch onto. They were like, that's it's a thing, man. I'm like, this person knew enough about me to go, I felt like that was one of those moments that people are going to like, I did my best. I feel nothing. Yeah. Is something that I hope in 10 years, people are going to be like, I was having a rough day. I didn't give a fuck anymore. People were, coming at me left and right. And I just was like, I feel nothing. But I don't know
when so I feel like with let's say musicians or rappers or whatever, they put out these songs, they don't know which one's going to be the banger,
you never
the
know.
10 out of 10. When you're writing your jokes, have you ever had one that's like you're like this is the fucking joke?
Never.
And it just maybe doesn't pop off, or it pops off more than you thought?
Never. I've never been able to look at anything I've ever done and thought this is exceptional. I've looked at things and said, I've never done anything like
Wouldn't
this.
The exceptional thing be like the last thing you say that's like the final, and I'll see you later? Like,
oh man, no, it's like you just don't know zeitgeist wise what's gonna grab people.
Again, no.
You don't know. So
zeitgeist.
It's like, no, I think maybe in literally the first year of my comedy, when I had my first bit that was on my first album, it was called Speak and Spell. And that was a bit that I wrote in
ABCDIOU.
That's exact.
I want to play right now.
I
fucking say that all the time.
I did that bit.
It's so funny.
In like 9th grade to my friends. Just goofing around. I did the voice and I did the whole bit. And I was like, if I ever did stand up, that's probably gonna end up in my routine. Cut to 4 years later, it's in my open mic. Cut to 10 years later, it's on my first album. So I'm living with a piece of material that I probably did, honest to God, like 800 times over the course of a decade plus. That's the only bit that I ever thought, I feel like that might stick around.
Yeah.
I had no clue I'd have other things that would still be, on the bathroom wall.
And the reactions you get, I mean, you've done everything from, I'm assuming the world's smallest crowd, a handful of people, to, the Madison Square Gardens, and, where did you do Vicious Circle at?
Boston Garden.
Boston Garden, okay. Yeah. And what's it like? Obviously, the difference of the energy of the crowd, but like, how does that change you as the way you're delivering?
Right.
Are you
versus doing it like a small,
like if there's 10 people, are you?
There's always performance in even practice, but when you are in front of all those people and you feel the event, it feels like an event when even if you're looking at the arena and you go, oh, I'm going to be on stage in 20 minutes, and you're excited and you feel that feeling of like, here we go.
Do you hype yourself up with any like phrase? Like,
never.
Don't fuck this up.
I have no pre-show rituals. This is my favorite thing to do during before a show. 20,000 people.
Masturbate.
We're talking. We're just shooting the shit. And then all of a sudden you hear them saying my intro and I'm like, hey, are you going to see Avatar? They're re-releasing it and I'm, yeah, okay. And it's 20,000 people going crazy. And all I want to do before is just chill.
Yeah.
Because I know when I get out there, something's going to kick into another gear that like even, I don't know what it is, but I know it's waiting for me when I get there. And all that basically equates to, you don't know what's going to be special about a show. You don't know what people are going to latch onto. You don't know really, except for a couple of bits that work. You don't really know what that crowd is going to take and run with. All you know is that I need to go out there and be mindful of the experience and present so that they latch onto that. And then hopefully everything else just takes you on the journey.
Do you ever, so
to be more succinct, it's like, 30 people. I'm working out the bit that I want to do in front of, 5,000 people at a theater or potentially 20,000 people. And when I'm working at it at the, Laugh Factory, the Improv, in front of a few people, I'm as deliberate as I would be in front of an arena, but I certainly am not like playing it to that same level because I don't need to. You could play it like that energy level that you need for 30 people.
Compared to 40,000.
That's right. Yeah.
And do you ever think that, people probably reference your, Rough Around the Edges or the Vicious Circle as like, like that's the one I remember, like that's the one, know, did you, like, I feel like with a lot of, again, back artists, like let's say, are you a fan of Drake?
Yeah.
Okay. Ever met him?
Once.
Well, that's nice super cool. Okay, well, so people always, for example, to him is like Take Care. They compare everything that they do to this Take Care album. Like nothing you do is good as this Take Care. And he's putting out, he's evolving, he's changing, but everyone's like, make to Take Care.
Right.
When you make these like crazy big specials, Vicious Circle.
But you know why they love that?
Because it was I think I have an idea.
Go ahead.
I think it's a time in their life where they relate to what he's saying in that moment. And it
show's over. We got it.
Remembers. You remember a point of your life that music had an impact on you. And I think
and if Drake grows up and changes, that means that you might have to grow up and change as well.
I don't want to. That's why I'm making dick jokes at 33 when I also did at 15.
That's the name of your book. Dick jokes at 33.
Dick jokes with Dane Cook. Don't be sour. That's what we're gonna call it. Do you ever worry that like when you make like the biggest thing ever, people are gonna compare it?
They do.
Like
like I do.
This is good. Like Vicious Circle, man. Like make jokes like that.
No, I know they're going to do that, and I also know that truly a career isn't maintaining everybody all the time. That's unrealistic. Right. I know a career. I grew up loving music, and I would watch like Aerosmith enter into a realm of their career where they kind of went more pop.
Yeah,
and because of that, a lot of their diehard like Back in the Saddle kind of stuff, like people really turned against them. But I watched what they did and I watched how they transform and had this metamorphosis. And what I grew to realize was true evolution in your craft is respecting people leaving, is respecting that not everybody's in the same mindset and ready for that discussion or that joke. And so, no, I don't compare because I know people are already doing that for me. They're going, I wish it was this or that. But I've heard enough people come at me go, Troublemaker was my favorite, or the first album, and it's lovely. Some people say I love all of it. Yeah. I laugh at everything. Some people are really like, I only like that special, and I'll tell you why. And they have something that like is anchored to that that means more to them than it does to me.
Because I couldn't leave my relationship because my CDs were in their truck.
Exactly. That's 4 callbacks in one interview. And in my 31 years, nobody's ever done that. Okay. Maxx, you're taking this to another place.
Can I tell you something I was worried about with this podcast?
What?
That I was like, I know a lot of Dane references, and I know a lot of things that he says. I want to reference.
Clearly,
first,
you do.
First, I'm like, is that going to piss Dane off? But I'm also like, are the people in the comments be like, Maxx, dude, you don't have to. You've proved that you like Dane. Stop like sucking him off with your callbacks.
I think it's fun to be able to look at some of those bits that now have become they don't even belong to me anymore. Yeah. They're just like beyond even like what my comedy repertoire was back then. So I just think it's all love. It's all a compliment.
Well,
stop.
No, but seriously, tell me some more things. I want to kind of wrap up this interview because I know you got a lot going on.
Okay.
I want to ask you a question. Actually, two final questions for you.
Go for it.
Okay. Thank God I wrote these down because I would have forgotten them. Do you remember what the first joke you told at your first ever gig?
The very first joke I ever told was a bit called, because I ended that first open mic with the Speak and Spell, and I opened with a bit that I used to do called Slip and Bleed, which was also on my first album, Harmful as Swallowed. And it was basically my dad made a homemade slip and slide because we couldn't afford one. So he took a bunch of trash bags and he cut them up and he put them in a row, but he put them over rocks. He didn't clean the lawn. And so the punchline, the punchline I think was, it wasn't slip and slide. We called it slip and bleed from the anus. Was the punchline. That was the first joke I'd ever told on stage in front of people. And it got a laugh.
Yeah.
How can bleed from the anus not going to laugh, actually?
I mean, you go from that to the Speak and Spell.
Right.
And a lot of your jokes, I think.
The stuff in the middle, I don't think had the stuff in the middle, but opening and closing with those two, there were 2 nostalgia bits. You would look at it like, everybody loves nostalgia. I was playing on the 2 things that people were like, we all had that. We all knew that. So those 2 I learned very quickly, I latched on to something that's meaningful to a group of people.
I think not, and I do not think that comedy is easy. Like I said, I would never step on stage, but I'm always something that I've loved about you is that your comedy is just, it's relatable things. There's so many stories about, your mom and your dad. It's like, the dad of like the zoo's not going anywhere, and then the hospital bit. Like, it's so like relatable to the people, the relationship stuff, the arguments about nothing. And I think that's what a lot of people, they try to think up comedy when I'm like, it's staring at you in the face in real life.
Right.
And you take these experiences.
It is your life. That's the best comedy. The best comedians are like, hey, this happened to me. This is what I experienced. And then they can put that spin that makes everybody else go, that's kind of like what it was like for me growing up. And if it wasn't like that for you growing up, hopefully you're laughing at saying, man, my experience was so different that must have been
Dane, your life sucked, man.
Right? I've heard that. I think that with the new special especially, it's material like that to where I know some of the stories that I'm telling in this new special, people are going to be like, man, I feel that. I've been in that exact same situation of feeling like you're in the undertow. But then there's a couple of stories that people are not going to be ready for. A few of the things that have happened to me over the years that are pretty stark, man. They're pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
And yet I can find humor in everything. It's like through time, the best healing, the best Band-Aid is humor. And so to be able to share stuff with people that are like, I've never experienced something that kind of scary, but I'm spinning it into comedy. Hopefully it's like that blend of like relatable and then unbelievable makes for a great show.
Okay. I completely understand what you're saying. And one more question.
Go for
Last one. What's a joke?
This is great, by the way. I thought, Ozzy, doesn't this feel good? This felt great. This felt like 15 minutes, man. This kind of was just like with 4 callbacks. We might need one more. We might need the 5.
I'm gonna DM. Don't worry. There's an ending one. There's an ending one. It's on my fucking notes.
Is it the stinger after the credit roll? It's gonna be like an Avengers movie. We come back and we just cut to Maxx and he's like, he just hits us with a fucking Monopoly bit.
Okay. Tell me, out of all the stand-ups you've done, you said you don't know which one's gonna be the zinger, which one's gonna be the quotable moments, which one's gonna be people's favorite. Okay. But what is a joke that you were like, this is funny as shit.
Oh wow!
And it did not. You said it, and then you had to I need to go on the next thing.
I can answer that. Okay. It's two. There's two.
There's one.
There's one that I was like, man, this is really like. I knew in the clubs that I was working up to before I recorded, I was like, okay, this feels like it's going to make an impact. And then there was another one that I never dreamt it would make an impact, even though I knew it was quotable. The one that I knew was going to make an impact was the night that I did the crying bit in Vicious Circle.
You need a good cry.
And the reason I knew was because not just for the way the bit came out of me that night, but I had already understood through some other tries and fails in my comedy that was a piece of material that the next time a person is really at a low point and they are fucking sad, they're going to think of me and laugh. And that to me, when I came up with that and I performed it, I was like, what a special way to be in people's life, to know that at maybe one of the lowest, saddest points, they're probably gonna go, man, I think, like in the middle of tears. And I know that because
so that one you knew was a zinger.
Every day people DM me or something, man, I was crying the other day. And I remembered. So that I knew. The one that I didn't think that I'd still hear today. You ready?
No, and this would be one that did not
I knew when I did it, like, man, that bit, I knew it's funny and had a hook, but I was like, I don't know if it would ever be quoted a year after I finish this. But I hear it once a week, absolutely. And that is, someone shit on the coats.
Someone shit on who shit on the coats?
Who shit on the coats? I can't go to any kind of gathering without somebody saying, or if people are wearing coats, the word coats,
it triggers
there's
people.
Coats around me or anything to do with a gathering or a party. Doesn't even have to be a party at somebody's. Dane, guess what? Let me guess. Someone shit on the coats.
And
then they go, I'm glad it wasn't my coat.
Has anyone ever shit on a coat and then sent it to you?
Never. Thank God.
Now that I know your address, I'm going to send you a shit covered coat.
Can we not use that even in here?
What's crazy?
Can we not end on a defecation?
No, well, see, you actually didn't answer the question, because
I did answer the question.
No, I said, what's a joke that you thought was funny that people didn't laugh at your show, didn't think it was funny.
That was the question?
Yes.
Man, whatever my answer was, ask the question leading up to my answer, because that was way more.
What are the two best jokes you've ever told?
Hey, Max,
that you knew were just going to be bangers.
Can you ask me? You suck. Ask that other question again. Ready? Watch this. I'm such a pro.
Here's how I wrote it.
Yeah, go ahead, Max.
What's a joke that you love that people did not think was funny?
It's a great question. I've never heard that.
Everything is funny.
I had an album after Harmful is Swallowed that I've never released.
Can I have it?
It was between Harmful and Retaliation. Can you have it? I have it here somewhere.
It's on one of these.
Probably hidden in one of those. Okay, it's probably on. It's on like a fucking MP3 whatever. And I recorded this album. It was basically like what you would now call crowd work. Everybody has fucking crowd work. It's like, we can all relax on the crowd. We get it. You talk to the crowd. Like everybody's releasing like constant, but I, at that time, was like, nobody's. So I brought, I recorded a bunch of my sets, but they were like 1 or 2 in the morning, when like, you're not just you're away from your professional mode.
Uh-huh.
And now you're starting to get like a little twisted, it's stuff that's like, ooh, this is kind of kitschy and underground. But I remember about 6 months later,
Dane,
I have a landline.
What? Do you still have dial-up internet?
Check that out. I do. I have 56K modem, actually. Okay.
Is that the president? You should probably answer that.
My fiance is going to grab it. This is a good build up to so the album. Okay. I think I called the album I'll Never Release This.
Fitting.
That was the name of the album. And I was about 4 bits in listening to the album. I don't even know if I can go here and say this. But
you have to now.
I had oh boy.
You gonna get canceled over this?
I'm trying to not get canceled.
He's rewording it in his head right now.
I had chunk of material, late night material about abortion.
Okay. You're probably frowned upon these days.
Frowned upon even that night that I listened to it, like, fucking 15, 16 years ago. It was like maniacally dark, but very funny. I mean, if you're in the room if you're in the room and you know someone doesn't have malice, I don't have any malice.
Yeah, I got no malice.
I'm malice free, actually. But if you didn't know that and you just clipped out this excerpt, you would say, that's pure evil.
Yeah.
And it was really fun. Like it made Doug Stanhope look affable and like super like.
So you went even deeper. So this is a joke that never
album,
even.
I just cracked that CD in half and I was like, I'm never releasing this. I'm glad I didn't because I was so foolish back then to think I could even like, oh, this will be really fucking. This will show what like a real nightclub comic is.
You wanted to be edgy, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's like, but it made edgy look dull. It was so. It was so wrong. But I was like, I just had commercial success. Wouldn't it be great if I did something that was like, could ruin the whole. And so,
you know what I was thinking about doing? I think I'm just going to fuck up my whole career in one joke.
It really was almost like me saying like, let me see if I can let the ship leave the shore and maybe never come back and rescue me.
Yeah.
And to me, that was like weirdly alluring. I'm glad I took a beat and worked on retaliation because that did a little bit better.
Well, man, everything you've done every career, I love. So, I'm going to go into the archives to find the stuff that I haven't seen, but I consider myself, someone who's consumed so much of your content for well over 10 years.
A long time, man.
And
the old bull here.
This is something that I never thought would ever happen, ever. And I want to give your show a shout out one more time. Again, DaneCook.com. You can see it while this episode's live on Monday. This goes up 2 days before it actually goes live.
All the new merch, all the cool stuff that you want to get if you're like a real diehard fan, all through DaneCook.com.
Okay. And
I just want to say that this special, the reason I did it independently, the reason I paid for it independently, in the gratitude that I have that Marty Callner stepped in and knew that I wanted to disrupt and say, I don't want to do a network or a streamer. This is the way I want to do this because I truly wanted to make something absolutely for the fans. My fans, comedy fans, something that was beautiful, promoted authentically, aesthetically, just everything that you could want it to be without anybody coming in and saying like, we own this with you. Don't do this. You can't do that. Take that out. This is 3 decades of doing what I love. And I think it's all going to, be very well received because people are going to see that I had a lot of passion making this.
Well, I'm going to link it in the description. Comes out October 5th on Moment.
It'll be on Moment, October 5th. And it's available right now or whenever this goes up, they can go in and pre-order and we're going to do an after party thing. All that's through the links.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you did it here, were your neighbors just like, shut the fuck up?
Everybody was here.
Give a heads up.
Everybody was here except there was one lady who ends up, I don't know if you saw the trailer.
I did.
She's a bitch. And so I bust her chops. She knows I call her a bitch and we've had a lot of fun with it. But yeah, she makes her way into the routine, but maybe in a bit of an unexpected way.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to see it, man.
Thanks, Max.
Thank you so much for being on the show. Hopefully you liked this interview. If you didn't, I just want to say...
What's the 5th callback?
That I did my best.
Oh!
I did my best!
Let's go! Clip it! Clip it!
That will wrap it up, guys. Thank you so much. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment down below, thumbs it up, subscribe, check out all of Dane's links in the description. If you're listening on any sort of podcast streaming service, leave a review.
Dude,
thank you so much.
Dude, I appreciate it.
Listen to this.
Thanks, man.
Listen to my outro.
What do you got?
Thank you so much for tuning in. It's my last name.
Okay.
Eat More Sour Strips.
You give me a box.
And Ever Forward. It's my clothing company. Mic drop.
Thanks, bud.
That was awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Oh, man, dude, that was so great, bro.
Left hand shake me.
Talk about. I was moving this. We'll stand and do a proper. But that was, man. I do a lot of these things, and sometimes it's a little bit like.
Say this was the best one. Go ahead.
It doesn't always flow, right? It doesn't always flow. Sometimes Sometimes you're just kind of sitting there waiting to see if okay, can I hit a dinger here? Can we
I would say this
a ground rule double, but this felt like we were fucking popping these things out of the yard, bro.
Yeah, no, this has a wide set vagina heavy flow. Good one.
Whatever that was, I would remove that. I've ready. This is how long I've done this. I'm like a fucking robot, and in real time, I can almost do like analytics and data in my head of like, I know where the dips are. I know where, and I feel like if somebody starts watching this, they're gonna stay all the way through.
Hell yeah!
I felt
see what their retention rate is.
We were fucking with each other enough. We were having fun. You had great questions. You know, it was the right blend of like, it just felt good. Beautiful backdrop. I just think that this is a winner. Feel good about it.
Bing
and by
bong.
the way, here's what you don't want to have. You don't want to have me go like this after. Listen, we should do another 10 minutes. You should just ask 3 more questions. I'll tell you what they are, and I'll cover you.
Really
I'll cover you since we had some fucking sleepy time tea moments.